Hey everyone, and welcome to another webinar from the fine folks at Dr. Marketing Tips. I am Corey, I'm co-founder of Dr. Marketing Tips, which is why I'm allowed to say that there are a bunch of fine folks over on the Dr. Marketing Tips team. So today it's just me. Jennifer is not around for this one, but what we wanted to talk about was what your next practice website needs to include. So, as today, more patients look to the internet before making a decision about healthcare. I think we can all kind of agree on that. And with that, your website plays a really pivotal role in helping you to attract and retain more patients. So, when you're building a new practice website, you need to consider what to expect, things to insist on, how to avoid extra expenses, what to do to get the best search engine optimization or SEO, and because at the end of the day, these new patients, your website is really more or less it's the place to go for your specialty. That's the goal. That's what we want it to be, and it's more than just a kind of standstill, static brochure. So you've got two sects here. You've got the new patients, and basically you want this to almost sell your practice as the #1 spot, can't go anywhere else to get your health care. And for existing patients, you want your website to be easy enough to navigate that when they need access to their portal or they need to look up your address for like the 19th time on their phone on the way to your office when they're running a few minutes late, it's easy for them to do that stuff too. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So like I said, the key for attracting and retaining new patients in this day and age is your website. That's why it's so important. And according to a recent statistic put out by Google, 74% of unique monthly Google users are searching for local business information. Now that's you guys, whether you believe that or not, but you are a local business, just like a plumber or electrician or or the restaurant, something like that. So, of these hundreds and hundreds of millions of users, 74% of the searches are for local businesses, just like you. Now, 94% of prospective patients say that the reputation of the facility is important. And so what that means, simply put, is that you need to pay attention to what people are saying about your organization online. And the reason that we mention that here is it has to do a little bit with your website, because obviously if that's someone's first impression of your practice, you want it to be a positive one. And also, if people are going around and they're talking about you positively online, then the website is the perfect place to take those positive comments and put them to use for you. If they have publicly agreed to put those glowing reviews about your physicians on Yelp or Vitals, RateMDs, etc., etc., you can take those and actually put them on your website as written testimonials. So you can kind of use the fact that these people are out there and they're saying things about your reputation, and we know that it is important and patients are looking for that. So why not let them do the legwork and just put it on the website? And also on here, we talk about how 77% of patients use search before booking. Now, again, that is also a stat from Google, and I just think that that is an incredible number. And I know that I'm one of those people. I would certainly, use the internet and go to websites before actually booking an appointment. But really, what this means is that search is how many patients begin their path to determining a healthcare provider, and that it can oftentimes be the last action before they actually select who's going to provide their healthcare. So you want to ensure that your organization shows up in the organic search results, and then when the website actually gets clicked on, that they're seeing a product, and as in the website, that is going to convert them into a patient of your practice. So, speaking of the organic listings and how important those are, How many patients could you get if you were ranked near the top of the page? Well, according to Search Engine Watch, when you have that #1 organic listing, so when you're right under the ads at the top of the page, the average traffic share is about 32.5%. And then as you go down the list, you'll see, obviously, that your traffic share just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And we also know that really it's only about 10% or so of patients even go past that first page of Google. So if you are not there, then you are missing out on a ton of potential patients. So with that said, what should your next website include? And if you were paying attention on the last slide, I bet you can guess what this one's going to be. That's right, it's search engine optimization. So SEO, it stands for search engine optimization, but usually you just see it as the term SEO. So basically, those numbers that we just talked about and how important those were, well, that's where SEO comes into play. SEO essentially makes sure that your content is seen by the masses that are searching for it. Now, one of the keys to search engine optimization, we won't get in too far in this particular webinar, but one of the keys is to actually make sure that you are producing fresh, relevant, quality content, because the search engines, in particular Google, they eat that stuff up. They absolutely love it. So if you're producing this content on one side, then on the other side, you have to make sure that you have your SEO correct. Just because if it's not, no one's going to see all that content that you've been working on. So that's a different webinar for a different day, but you do want to make sure when you're having these initial discussions with your website developer that SEO is key, it is a prime factor, there's a benchmark to go off of, and you are really harping on them to make sure that it's understood. This is a key to your success. And again, you want to make sure that as many pages as possible have a singular focus on your website, because that really helps with SEO. So when you're designing your site and you're thinking about how you're going to map things out, of course the home page is going to kind of have a little bit of everything. But then when you go to your services page, okay, you're going to have a list of your services and your specialties, and then what happens after that? So that's when you really want to drill down. And let's take orthopedics for an example. If you have a knee subspecialty page, okay, that's perfectly fine. We're talking about the knee as a whole, so that's the focus. When you're the next level down from that, let's say we want to talk about a total knee replacement. Well, a total knee replacement should have its own page and it be the focus of that page, because that really does help with the SEO value. You don't want to put the total knee on a list with your Makoplasties and your partial knees and your ACL tears and your arthroscopies and things like that, because that it does not perform as well. So make sure that you make that very clear to the folks that are developing your website, because odds are they know the SEO kind of in and out, but it's your job to help them understand your procedures and what you're really looking for. So next up, what you should really focus on for your next website is a content management system. Now, it's a fact that 58% of healthcare marketers use blogs compared to 74% of all marketers. And the reason that we bring that up is that a blog is a great place to showcase your knowledge and your experience, expertise, while driving traffic to your site. Again, it helps with SEO. So this is the perfect place to say, in not so many words, that we know what we're talking about. Come here for your healthcare. Now, the blog should be relevant content to your specialty, education articles really, so that if someone who's unfamiliar with your practice, they stumble upon this article, they read it and they sit back and think, wow, those guys really know what they're talking about. If I'm going to put my health on the line, on the surgery table, for instance, or even if it's just a checkup, whatever the case may be, I want to go to these guys because they know what's up. So you don't really want to sales when it comes to these, but it's educational content. The reason that, again, this stat is here is that developing an active blog could be a key differentiator from your competition down the street, because we know that not as many healthcare marketers blog as do the rest of the marketing world. So if you have one and you have a really good one, it helps you to fully utilize this content marketing. Okay? So what is a content management system? Essentially, it's the quote-unquote back end of your website. So on the right side of the screen here, you'll see that this is just a snippet of one of the practices that we work for. This is kind of what it looks like. It allows you to update and publish your content on a regular basis, and that's anything from a blog update to, let's say you get a new physician, or you have a new event or announcement coming up, or maybe you need to change a label in the navigation. All that can be done on the content management system. You want something that's easy to understand, it's flexible, it's you don't need a lot of coding experience, kind of drag and drop when possible. And for that, we always recommend WordPress. It is very simple. Essentially, if you can use Microsoft Word, you're golden. You will be able to understand exactly how to use WordPress. So another great thing about WordPress is that it's very easy to extend the functionality, meaning that you can add in plugins, they're called, and like if you look on the right side there, there's an analytics plugin, there's a forms plugin, there's an FAQ plugin, and it goes on and on and on and on, and it allows us to customize the functionality of the website for the particular practice need. So you're going to want something like this, because odds are when you have a change, you don't want to go back to the website developers every single time, because that starts to get kind of expensive. So if you can become well versed in the content management system, you're going to wind up saving yourself a lot of money in the long run, and it helps you because you'll be in the site every day. You can get your hands around it. You can kind of understand and comprehend what goes into these things, what makes them tick, what can break them, and overall how to make them more successful by doing so. So up next, let's talk about responsive design and why you need that in your next practice website. It is a fact that a third of patients use tablets or mobile devices on a daily basis for research and to book appointments. So, I mean, let's just talk about how popular online browsing has become. Okay, so because patients, or prospective patients really, are looking for you on their mobile devices, you need to create a mobile marketing plan that includes payment and appointment reminders, or at least the ability to schedule appointments or an appointment request from the website, and that's why responsive design is so important. So responsive design, basically, if you look at the image there, it means that the website sort of reshapes itself and reformats depending on the size of the screen you're looking at. So if you're looking at it on a huge screen, you see one thing, but you don't need a completely separate website to look at it on a phone or a tablet. Now, we know that 50% on average of traffic comes from combined phone and tablets, and the other 50% is made up of desktops and laptops. So we see that across the board for every single client that we work with. So if you think about it from an end user experience, if you're looking at a website, a practice website on your mobile device, and it's hard to scroll around and hard to read, I mean, are you really going to invest the time there? Are you really going to pay attention, or are you just going to go, this is frustrating, I'm going to go somewhere else? And you think about that, if half of your traffic is looking at your website and you are not designed to give them a pleasing experience, I mean, the potential loss there is just, it's obvious, and it's also kind of mind-boggling. So that first bullet there, Mobilegeddon, it's called, and this is now in full effect. So what this is, if you haven't heard, is on April 21st of 2015, Google announced it would be promoting sites that are responsive in organic search results and demoting sites that are not. So if your site does not reformat to fit the screen size of particular devices, then your organic search rankings have effectively tanked. And don't panic, stay with us. You can get those back, but you're going to have to become a responsive site. So yeah, basically the internet kind of coined this term, Mobilegeddon, and we have actually a stat here from USA Today that a website which previously ranked number 1 or number 2 in a search query could fall to 9th or 10th when viewed on a mobile device just because it's not responsive. That's incredible. And remember our chart from earlier, and you look at the average percentage of market share the further you go down the list. So that's pretty nuts. And another thing to consider here, I touched on this just a second ago, was that responsive design will also help to keep your bounce rate lower. So bounce rate is basically a number that refers to a patient when they land on your site, they don't do anything, and they leave right away. Ideally, you want this number to be between 50, 55%, somewhere through there. If you're seeing numbers in your analytics that are higher than 65%, you have a huge problem. Again, going back to the example, if you're, let's say, looking at a website on a phone and it's really hard to navigate and you jump off of that. Well, that creates a huge spike in your bounce rate. And so if you see your bounce rate going up, 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 that's probably why. Okay? So if you don't know how you can see those bounce rate numbers, we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But it's also something you're going to need on your next website. It's just a spoiler alert for you. So yeah, responsive design, it helps because we know when the viewer is served on a site, they're presented with the best way to interact with your content, and thereby organically lowering the bounce rate and increasing the likelihood that they will convert into a patient. Now, we have a link in the show notes to test if your site is actually responsive. There's a link from the Google developer site. You just put in your web address, and it'll run a few algorithms and say, yes, you are, or no, you're not. I highly suggest that you check that out so that you can find out once and for all if your site is responsive and if it's not. And if it's not, well, then you need to do something about it as soon as you possibly can. So the next thing that your website should include are useful buttons. And I know that sounds kind of silly. Sounds easy, right? But patients looking at your website, they're there to find out usually one of 4 things. As you can see by the screenshot on the right, that's a website that we've done for a client. And this is right under the main slider. So these big buttons, we know that they're looking for the physicians to learn more about them. They're looking for their forms. They're looking for the locations. And they want to know how they can request an appointment. I mean, those are really why people are coming to your website. They're not coming to your website specifically to learn about their condition. I mean, yeah, sometimes that happens, and that's why we create the content, and it's search engine friendly and all of that. But for the most part, people are there to do one of those 4 things. And then we also are sure to include some extra call to action items. As you can see on the screenshot on the bottom right there, those are things that we know that are important to either cash flow or important to the website or the patient, because they want to know that they can, without a doubt, easily navigate to the patient portal or easily pay their bill, find the forms they need, etc., etc. Now, remember a few minutes ago we talked about how to find the numbers for bounce rate. Now that's usually done through some sort of analytics program. We suggest Google Analytics, as I would imagine that just about every other marketing agency or website developer would suggest as well. It provides wonderful traffic insights and so much more. It really allows you to get to know your patients and the way that they think and where they're coming from, how they're finding you. It's incredible, the wealth of information. And I don't know if you can see this on the screen here, but this is actually from a client of ours that we do some work for. And if you look at the device category, this is what we were talking about with the responsive design. So number 1 is the desktop numbers, okay, and how many people are coming from there and the bounce rate. And number 2 and 3 are the mobile and tablet numbers. And if you add number 2 and 3 together, you'll see that it's about 50% for both. It's actually a little bit higher on the mobile side. And then if you look at the bounce rate, then you'll see that 45% on the desktop, which is great. I mean, the lower that number, the better. I mean, earlier we said that 50 to 55 is about right. So they're sitting at 45, which is awesome. And then you look at the mobile number and the tablet number and see how much higher those numbers are. Remember I said that 65% is something to be concerned about. And you look at their mobile number and they're sitting at just about 75% bounce rate, which is that's when the sirens are going off. It's red alert. So actually by looking at these numbers, this is what had spurred us to prompt them to immediately get on a website redesign, which when we took over the account, we did not originally create the website. So one of the first things that we did was we jumped into the analytics here and said, whoa, we've got a huge problem. So that's one of the ways that we can kind of reverse engineer these tactics and see and learn more about patient behavior. And one of the good things about analytics is it also allows you to see, not just what device that people are looking at your website on, but it also allows you to take a look at what browser they're using. You can see where they're coming from, if it's a social network or if they're actually putting your name in an address bar. Or maybe they found a link on another website somewhere. It allows you to see what pages are popular, which ones are not, which one of your doctors is getting the most visits, which is always interesting to find out. And so much more. And it's if you do not have some sort of analytics tool or report now, then you're really missing out on a wealth of data. Okay, so next up, switching gears from the back-end analytics side to the front side, the next thing that your website's going to need, you want the right colors. I'm not going to go through what each of these colors really means, but the thing that we want to drive home is that colors matter on your website and to your brand in general. And when choosing design layouts, you want to consider what common associations can mean in Western culture. And if you really think about it, just kind of go through your head and think of the last couple of medical sites that you've looked at, and you'll see why some of these colors are often picked, and some are kind of veered away from us. For instance, we have white and blue and green. So with the blue, we've got knowledge and trust, and hopefully some calm and peace comes over you when you're learning a little bit on Dr. Marketing tips that you wouldn't have known otherwise. But yeah, when you think about it, you don't see really a lot of red on websites. Sometimes if there's something to do with sports medicine, you'll see red, but typically you stay away from that. You don't see a lot of orange typically. So just kind of think about that. Look at your current website. Are you on like a sort of like a pale orange background? Do you have red somewhere that maybe you shouldn't? Do you have a black background? And you don't really want to promote fear or luxury unless you're maybe like sort of a high-end boutique sort of medical practice. But if you're not, then you kind of want to stay away from those things. So just something to consider when you're talking to your website developers or you get those initial designs back from them. Now the next thing you'll want to include is inviting copy and images throughout the entire website. You want everything to be warm and inviting. This may come as a shock. Brace yourselves. Grab onto something here. People don't like to visit the doctor's office. I know, it's crazy, right? It's not fun, and most of the time there's some like uncomfortable reason or embarrassing sort of reason for being there in the first place. You don't really want to be there. So this is why the website can't be cold and heartless. It can't read like it was written for a peer-reviewed journal, and the images can't be of some gruesome, gross surgery, because those things are cool. Some people like them. A lot of people don't, especially if it's a mother making an appointment for a husband or a child. They don't want to see that stuff. The husband and the little boy might, but we want to keep those things kind of behind closed doors whenever possible. Instead, you want to choose copy that is warm and inviting, and you want to highlight your ability to provide comprehensive care for the whole family and your welcoming environment that you work hard to create every single day. And the expertise and fellowship training of your physician. Always focus on those things. And actually, one thing to consider, and if at all possible, is to use photos of your staff rather than stock photos. So yeah, we want photos to be warm, inviting, and friendly, but we also want real faces in those photos whenever possible, because they go so much further. Because if someone, again, if 77% of people are checking the website before they're scheduling an appointment, then when they actually get to the office, there's already sort of this feeling that you know the practice, you know those faces that you're going to see, you might recognize them from the website, and it really helps create that connection and that bond a lot faster than if it was just a stock photo of some random nurse or physician smiling at you. You know, if you can happy faces from the office, or the physicians interacting with a patient, those things really go a long, long way. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. On the left side of the screen, you've got a bright, sort of very happy, inviting website. New patients are welcome. You know, it talks about the caring and respectful, effective environment that they work tirelessly to create. And on the right side, it's someone with a hammer and a chisel. So, of course, they are in different specialties. If you're a fracture specialist, you know, odds are you are doing surgery. But the typical rule of thumb is you want to keep things brighter, not, you know, super dark like they are on the right side there. And you want to keep things bright, and you want to show kind of the almost the after of a before and after series. You know, you don't, if you're, again, staying with the orthopedic idea, yeah, if you're an orthopedic place, you know, you work on bones, you fix bones, but that doesn't mean you want to show someone bent over, holding their knee in pain. You want to show them actively jogging with their family and their dog. You know, you want to show that active lifestyle that you can help provide. So consider how you use your physician bio pages on your upcoming website, not only to discuss who they are in and out of the office, which we hear constantly, so many times, that patients are choosing their doctors now, not only because of where they went to school, you know, if they went to, you know, a favorite school of the patient's or a rival school, but also because, you know, the doctor is a violinist, or they are a avid fisherman, you know, and then the patient can immediately connect with those things. So this really helps to maintain that personal touch online. Obviously, you want to include a photo of the physician, what they specialize in, their education, etc., etc. And we know that by 2017, 69% of all consumer internet traffic, according to Cisco, is going to be video. So how can you capitalize on that now and put your medical practice ahead of the curve? And if you see on the example there, we're big fans of these getting to know your doctor videos, where we actually just talk about, you know, why the doctor got into medicine, what they enjoy most about visiting with patients, who they are away from the office. They talk about their family and their kids, and, you know, vacations, hobbies, etc. And, you know, patients, they really do connect with those things. You know, so whether it's text or it's video, or you're promoting content that your doctor has created in the form of extra videos about procedures, or patient testimonials, or written articles, anything you can do to really leverage the physician bio pages, you're going to want to consider. So the reason that we bring this up is because rather than say, well, we already have physician bio pages, so when we make the new website, we're just going to transfer everything over. Well, you might want to pump the brakes there a second and think about it. Maybe have a strategy in place for how you can better utilize the content and resources that you already have on your physician pages to make them a little bit more effective. Because, I mean, really, that's, at the end of the day, that's what you should be doing with every single page on the website. We'll talk about that again in just a few minutes, but you really want to focus on how you can best utilize everything you've got to put your best foot forward for the thousands of prospective patients that are visiting your website every single month. So another thing that you're going to want to focus on for your website, your next website, is proper hosting. And it's a fact that 40% of patients will abandon a site if it takes longer than 5 seconds to load. I know I'm one of those. I mean, just think about how long that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Would you wait that entire time for a website to load? I know I wouldn't, and I know that I'm not alone. So a couple of things here. A lot of times we see that folks go with GoDaddy because they're cheap, they're big. Everybody knows the name GoDaddy. I challenge you to name another 2 website hosting services. You probably can't. But the fact is that you kind of get what you pay for with GoDaddy. So typically the cheapest plans on GoDaddy, they use what's known as shared hosting. They put your server on a big farm, meaning your website, it shares space on a server with a lot of other websites, sometimes thousands of them. And this can result in your website either crashing, going down more than it should, or it can severely slow down page load times. And honestly, the solution there is just to pay a little bit more money to get a better service, and maybe to get either your website on a smaller shared server where there's just a couple of other sites, or you can actually have your own dedicated server where it's up all the time and it's just you that's on there. Those get kind of pricey, but they really do make a difference to the end user. So yeah, if you do have to stay with GoDaddy, consider upgrading your plan or consulting with the company that's developing your website to find out what their recommendations are. Typically, they have a preferred partner who has the capabilities to make sure your site is up and it consistently is loading quickly. So for example, we work with a local vendor rather than the big national GoDaddy, who I think maybe is out of Arizona. I'm not sure. But we work with somebody that we know where the office is. We can pick up the phone and we can say, hey, Marcus, there's an issue here with X practice website. And he goes, okay, I'm on it. And right away, we have a contact there and we know that he's on it. And so that customer service there, it cannot be understated. We don't have to go through a phone tree. We just call him up and say, hey, here's the issue. And just like that, he's on it. And another thing to consider is asking about site monitoring. And again, this is usually like an added service with someone like GoDaddy or Bluehost, HostGator, things like that. They might not even offer that service. You might have to go to a third party to get that service. But some of the smaller guys actually will include site monitoring for you. And what that does is that says when the site goes down, they can immediately send you an email or a text and let you know that they are working on the site to get it back up and get that problem going. And maybe if there's a nightly backup, which is something that we always suggest and we do with our partners, you actually do not get that with GoDaddy either. There's some workarounds within WordPress. It's a little bit too complicated to talk about in this particular webinar, but basically if the site goes down, they can revert to the backup, or they can fix the problem immediately and get that back up. So that's why site monitoring is important, and I wanted to make a quick mention of that because there's nothing worse than getting a call from a disgruntled or confused patient when they're trying to get to your website and they say that your website's down. And it seems like those always happen late on a Friday afternoon, and it's just the absolute worst. And those are like the worst phone calls to get, when you're packing your bags and getting ready to go, and oh my God, the website is down. What am I going to do? So if you have the site monitoring, though, you typically don't have to worry about those kinds of things. So that's kind of the gist of what should be on your next website, things that you should make sure that you ask for. But a couple of things to be prepared for. Your site is not going to be done by Wednesday. and what I mean by that is that you should prepare for this process, and you cannot expect it to be turned around in a week or 2 weeks. You should be aware that the website redesign is not something that can be really rushed to an extent. I mean, some parts of it can be, but if you want it to be right, it just takes time. Most practices, they take several weeks or months to redesign. It's tedious, it's arduous, but that's just the way it is. So before you get started, you should decide what your vision is for the new site, or at least what the problem is with the current site. And the better you define what you want and what your vision is, the more successful the redesign is going to be. And that kind of goes in line with considering creating the strategy before you actually go ahead and get started. And strategy, I mean, honestly, it's really one of the most important steps. Other stages of redesign following strategy, you've got your planning and design, the build, optimization, launching the site, etc., etc., etc. But they all kind of start from that strategy. So you want to spend some time developing and massaging your strategy to make sure that you get everything right. And a good place to start after you define your vision for the site is to create a spec document that outlines all you want to include in your site. You want to list out everything you want it to do, and do not be shy, because the people that are building your website, they might have some different ideas from you. Maybe they're not as familiar with medical as as they claim to be. So you want to list out everything that you want the site to do as part of the strategy, how effective you want it to be. And this is the time to look at your site from business owner's perspective. Even though you're not most likely the actual owner or partner, but consider looking at some benchmarks with your current website. You want to find where you are using analytics, and then figure out where you want to be at this time, let's say in 6 months or a year. You want to look at statistically driven goals for the new site, relevant keywords for the specialty if you haven't revisited those lately, or make sure that you've included any sort of new treatments that you're now offering. It's also a great time to do a competitive analysis of what is going on with your local competitors in the same field. What does their website look like? What does their website do correct? What does it do incorrectly? How can you improve on things that they do? You don't have to reinvent the wheel necessarily, but it does make sense to take a few minutes or more and look at what they're doing. And also, I would suggest now going ahead and looking at your content in your media, all the photos that you've got. Do you need new staff photos? Do you need new physician headshots? Do you own every single photo that's on your website? Because if you don't, and you get caught using a photo that was just kind of picked up from Google, those things are all licensed, and if you don't have a license, then you could run into a major fine and issue. And again, outside of looking at your competitors, find a couple of websites that you really do like. They don't even have to be medical websites, but just a handful of websites that you can turn around and give to your website developer and say, oh hey, I really love the main slider image and how it comes in on this one, or I think this business page, how they have the CEO listed, should be how all of our physicians are listed, and things like that, because not only does that get the website closer to where the vision that you kind of have in your mind, but it will also save you time and save you money, because then it's not completely up to the web developer or group or whatever to start from scratch to get you the thing that you are really looking for, because that's what they'll do. They'll try and do the best job that they can, but the more information you can give them, the faster that they can hit the ground running, the better the product will be. Again, it won't be done by Wednesday, but it will be done quicker, and you'll be happier with the end result. So thanks for watching. That's it. There you have it. That's our big picture overview of what your next website should include. So we've got links on the show notes to several of the resources mentioned in this webinar and a bunch of the different articles where some of this information was taken from, not only from our site, but from some of the ones that we have sourced as well. So be sure to check out drmarketingtips.com and make sure that you check out all of the links there, and you, if nothing else, visit that Google link that will tell you if your site is responsive or not. So as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us directly via email or hit us up on Twitter at Dr. Marketing Tips. You can email me directly, Corey at drmarketingtips.com. That's COREY at drmarketingtips.com. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.